Welcome everybody to this evening's Parent Involvement Committee meeting for Wednesday, November 16th, 2022. I'm one of your co-chairs, Jim Van Allen, and Huma Chowdhury is here as well. And we will lead you through the meeting tonight. I'd like to start with our land acknowledgement. The Durham District School Board acknowledges that many Indigenous nations have long-standing relationships, both historic and modern, with the territories upon which our school board and schools are located. Today, the area is home to many Indigenous peoples from across Turtle Island. We acknowledge that the Durham region forms a part of a traditional and treaty territory of the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nation, the Mississauga peoples, and the treaty territory of the Chippewas of Georgina Island First Nation. It is on these ancestral and treaty lands that we teach, live, and learn. And our Indigenous Human Rights Statement. The Durham District School Board recognizes Indigenous rights and are distinct. In the exercise of those rights, Indigenous staff and students shall not be subjected to actions with the aim or effect of depriving these distinct rights. The Durham District School Board is committed to learning and working environments that center human rights and equity and are safe, welcoming, respectful, equitable, accessible, inclusive, and free from discrimination. So I'd like to move that we have approval of our agenda and minutes. If I can have somebody for approval of that, please. And if someone can just help me watch the chat, because I can't see it, unfortunately, currently, for any hands going up.
Frank looked like he approves, and I also can second.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
So tonight we've got a guest who has been invited, Devika Mathur. She's going to be presenting very briefly to us on human rights, because one of the things that we want to do as a committee is to create a parent-friendly guide or a handbook for our parents to navigate our human rights policy. So at this time, I'd like to ask Devika to come to the unmute.
Thank you. Hi, and good evening, everyone. My name is Devika Mathur, and my pronouns are she and her, and I'm the DDSB's Human Rights and Equity Advisor. Thanks for having me here this evening, and it's good to be here again. I remember seeing some of you at PIC meetings last year as part of our consultation process on the policy, and I'm happy to see the new members at PIC this year as well. So as you may know, we underwent a pretty broad and lengthy consultation process on the human rights policy and procedures over about an 18-month period. And in May 2022, the Board of Trustees approved the policy. And along with the policy, there are 4 procedures. One that's focused on proactive prevention, one that's focused on human rights accommodation, one that's for student and family human rights issues, incidents, and complaints, so the complaint process, as well as an accountability framework that sets out our individual roles, our responsibilities, and our accountability for upholding human rights and for preventing discrimination in all of our learning and working environments. So, and as you may recall, or if you've had a chance to see the policy and the procedures on our website, you'll know that it's a lot of materials. So one policy, 4 procedures, it's a big package and it's a lot of content, and it covers both the student side as well as employee perspectives as well in terms of upholding rights for both students and for employees. And so one of the things we want to do, and I understand PIC is interested in taking it on as a project, is to create a parent-friendly, guardian-friendly guide to the policy and procedures. And as part of the consultation process last year, we had developed high-level summaries of each of the documents in the policy package that gave brief overviews, as well as a summary of students' rights and how to raise and issue or a complaint through our process. And so now that the policy and the procedures have been finalized, a parent guide would really help to hone in on some of the key pieces within that really big package of policy and procedures that are important for parents and guardians to know. So for example, what are human rights? What our responsibilities are? What does discrimination mean? And so, for example, our full complaint procedure, it's quite lengthy. It covers a lot of information because it also goes into a lot of details about what staff must do when they receive a complaint and throughout the investigation process. So it might help for parents to have an overview of the process from a parent's perspective. So what do I do if I have an issue or a complaint? Where do I go?
Oh, Devika, you keep going hollow and not. Is that, I'm not sure why. Is it, if it's just me? Is it just me? Yeah, you've all, I'm not sure. I'm hearing sometimes you sort of fade and it goes a little bit hollow.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
it's hollow and straight, yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. Is this better if I come a little
Yes,
closer to my
much
mic?
better. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Thank you so much. Let me know if I need to repeat anything. But essentially, it would be really helpful for parents to have an overview of the process from a parent's perspective. So what to do if they have an issue or complaint, where they go with it, who do they send it to, what your options are, and what you can expect will happen once you submit a complaint. And the same thing on for human rights accommodation. What is accommodation? How do I make a request? What can I expect in the process? And really wanting to be able to provide that information in a way that is easy to understand, in plain language, and that is accessible for parents across the district. So that's a bit of my overview, and I'm happy to help in any way in terms of developing or reviewing what gets developed. And as I mentioned, we did prepare a few summaries for the consultation process, so that does give a bit of a starting place. And those are available on our web pages, and I can share the links out with you through Margaret. And I think that's probably all I wanted to share tonight for now. So I'm happy to take any questions or to turn it back over to Margaret or to the chairs.
Thank you. I can lead. I was leading this section, so I'll ask the chair. Any questions of Devika before we ask for people who'd like to be part of this little project? And I'm just going to stop sharing so that we can see people.
Is there a time?
Kristen.
Yeah, is there a timeline that we're thinking that we want this out to parents? Like, is it a month? Is it 6 months? I'm just wondering.
Well, I would think we want to start right away. And as soon as when we do brochures like this, it's a process that we do. It has to go to our senior team council, and then it goes to creative services, then to the senior team council, and then to the trustees, and then it comes back. So I would think the whole process, but to get it done, probably about depending on how often you want to meet, would take about 3 months, I would think. Any other questions? Thank you. So who would like to be a part of this? So it's creating a parent-friendly handbook that will give parents, I guess, an overview of our human rights policy and the process that they need to follow if they wanted to lodge a complaint. Kristen, any other volunteers?
Sounds quite interesting to me. Most definitely, I could have.
Patrick, and I
join the
see
cause.
Trisha.
Yeah,
Yeah.
join the cause.
Okay, so Peter.
I'd love to be part of that too, Margaret.
Okay, Jim, James. You see the hands, Manon, Patrick.
This is great.
Okay.
Lots of volunteers. Lots of hands.
And
Good.
Carolyn, I'm not sure.
Carolyn?
Carolyn, you're saying yes? Okay, perfect. And Uma says yes too.
Oh,
And Lori,
wow.
Lori put her hand up. Lori also is happy to be part. Nigel Hunter. Okay, that's lots of great volunteers. So, I mean, thank you for that. And I need to, so we'll be connecting with Devika, and also there's another person that I'm going to invite to be part of this as well that works with me at the Education Center. And so that we can produce something that's really representative of what we do as a board too, and also something that the parents can use and keep on their fridge or wherever that's going to be good for them, so they know exactly what to do when they're faced with circumstances that they need to maneuver in our board. I'd like to, before I pass over to our chairs, we know that we just had a recent election, and we have 2 new trustees that are part of this committee. We got Stephen Linton I believe, who has been elected to be the trustee to replace Trustee Templeton. That was formerly the trustee for this committee. And there's an alternate. The alternate is here tonight that subs when he's not able to attend. And the alternate is Michelle Arsenault. And Michelle, I'd just like you to take this opportunity to introduce yourself to this committee. And just a little bit about yourself and why you wanted to be part of this particular committee on the board.
Thank you so much, Margaret. Hi, everybody. Good evening. My name is Michelle Arsenault. I like the whole idea of this program, so this is why I wanted to be part of this committee. Being involved with parents, helping them with situations where they're not sure where to go, how to go, just being support for parents and students is just amazing. And I think this program will definitely help out a lot of parents and kind of bridge that gap where they're not having understanding of where to go and supporting them. I've been living in Whitby for many, many years. I grew up in Whitby. I went to public school and high school here. And I moved away short time to go to school, and I came back and I brought my whole family with me and my kids. I have 4 children who are in the or been part of the DDSB. I have 2 that are still in. So I'm quite familiar with a lot of what's been going on in this area, and I want to help out as much as I can and be supportive of the cause.
Thank you very much for that. So I'm going to turn back the chairing of the meeting to Uma and to Jim.
Perfect. That was great. Thank you so much. Margaret, are you able to share your screen again? Thank you so much. So we've been proposing some meeting dates. So the upcoming meeting dates that we've been working on thus so far is February 15th of 2023, April 27th of 2023, and May 25th of 2023. We found those seemed to work the best and did not seem to interfere with anything else. If you're speaking, Margaret, you're on mute, I believe.
Of course, I'm on mute. So we'd like to have a meeting in December. The subcommittees, you'll see your names this evening, and we'd like you to meet, and then we'll meet in December to hear some of the plans that we have for our subcommittees, and we'll pick a date in December. Certainly we know that it's a busy season for all of us. So is there it's usually a Wednesday night that we meet? Is there a Wednesday night that we prefer? Just this is we know we have to have 4 meetings a year, but we want to slip this one in so that we can at least before the new year have some idea of the plans that we'd like to have for our subcommittees that's going to support our parents and our students. So I'd like to propose to a meeting in December.
Did you have a date in mind, Margaret?
I'm looking at to give time for the committees to meet and to plan. I'm looking at Wednesday, December the 14th. If you can check your schedules.
That works for myself, and I'm not sure about the rest of the committee.
I'm going to stop sharing so we can see a thumbs up. Does that work for most people? Wednesday, December the 14th. Just put your hands on your screen. I'll put your thumbs up so I can see. Okay, Wednesday, December the 14th it is. So we'll have a meeting. It'll be just an hour, really, just for our committees to report back on some of the ideas and things that we want to do to support our SECs or to support our parent communities. And so December the 14th, 6:30, and an email will come out for you that evening as well. So thank you so much for that. I'm going to share my screen again. Okay. So here are the subcommittees. Okay, I leave it to Uma or Jim.
So our parent involvement subcommittees, so we'll have our PIC newsletter committee. So we do 3 meetings per year. And thus far we have Wasim, RuPaul, and Mitzi. Our parents engagement series. So we have keynote speakers, 2 or 3 a year. We put on some great functions last year. So it'll be Yogita, Lori, Uma, Nadia, and Nadia as well. Our Durham Parents Symposium, Parents as Partners, will be done in April or May. Will be Peter and Patrick. Our Pro Grants Committee, run from January to May of 2023, will be Gerline, RuPaul, Kristen, and Nigel. And our Social Justice, Human and Equity Rights Committee will be Uma, Nigel, Kristen, Lori, Peter, Tricia, Tara, Nadia, and Patrick. I plan on joining that committee, and my name is not on 1 or 2. I haven't got back to Manon yet. That's my apologies for that. Thank you.
So I think Jim, it's important that we have leads for this committee. If we can, if you guys can.
That'd be perfect. Is anybody interested, Wasim, RuPaul, or Mitzi, in taking the lead on the PIC newsletter committee? Or have we discussed that yet? Feel free to speak up.
We haven't had a chance to discuss that as yet. Maybe I am more than happy to take the lead if that is okay with Wasim and RuPaul. Unless
I'm okay. I'm okay.
Okay, then I guess it's been moved.
And always recognize that I'm also a support. I try to come to all these meetings as much as I can, which is usually if you've got a meeting and I get the invite, I'm usually attending to lend my support as well. So just always be aware of all the teams. I'm happy to be part of your meetings as well.
Perfect. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you for volunteering for that. That was great. We'll move on to the Parents Engagement Series. We have Yogita, Lori, Uma, Nadia, and Nadia. Is anybody willing to step forward as the lead on that project? Please speak up if you are.
I don't mind taking a lead if the need be.
Perfect. Thanks, Uma. You're gonna have a busy calendar. And we'll move on to the Durham Partner Symposium. So currently we have Peter and Patrick. Would one of you two like to take the lead on that, please?
Peter, yes, no? All right, I'll take it.
So
Perfect.
we know that there's only 2, and that's a huge thing that we do at the end of the year. And I'm going to look at the list of people that said they wouldn't mind being in more than 1, or they wouldn't mind being, and this one would be their second choice. So we'll look at that and then see if we can get some more support for this team as well.
Sorry, it's Tracy.
No problem.
Okay.
Sorry, everybody, to interrupt. It's Tracy. I had this one as my first choice as well. So feel free to add me to this particular group, please.
I also don't mind being added to the Durham Partner Symposium.
Thank you. We'll see. Perfect. Things are coming together well. And we'll move on to our Pro Grants Committee. So we have Gerline, RuPaul, Kristen, and Nigel. Would anybody like to step forward to be the lead on that?
I don't Carolyn Waters.
Carolyn Waters was also part of this. She was
Yeah.
transitioning as what do we call it? Succession planning. So, but if there's somebody else that wants to help her with that, that would be helpful as well. Carolyn, are you okay to do it? Because you're here to transition whoever it is to give the person all the nuts and bolts.
Of course. I'd love it if somebody wanted to join me. That'd be great.
Yes, somebody did say.
I don't mind, but RuPaul has also said, so I think everybody is willing to help out.
No worries, no worries.
So we've got tri-chairs. So Carolyn, RuPaul, and Gerline.
And then I didn't notice in the chat, Manon said she would like to also be part of the Pro Grant Committee. I missed that. And Brian Tara is also asked to be added to the Durham Partners Symposium.
Any questions? So for, I see a hand, Frank. Oh, so I'm not sharing. Sorry. I'm gonna just stop sharing.
That's okay. It helps out because I can't always see the hands, so
Yes,
I appreciate that.
Stop sharing.
Thanks, Jim and Margaret. Someone had their hand up before me. I think Tracy.
I apologize. I had put my hand up to talk about the symposium. I forgot to lower it, so I'm good. Thank you.
So I'm not. Don't take this question the wrong way. I'm not quite sure what my role is on the committee this year. So I see I haven't been put in any of the committees, and that's fine. I don't mind just floating. Or if you need someone somewhere, I know that I'd offered to be involved in the parent engagement committee. I'm happy to be used anywhere.
Okay, so that would be an oversight because I do have the spreadsheet and I did see your name on it, Frank.
It's fine. It's fine, Margaret.
Yes,
really,
I see your name. That's an oversight on our part.
Okay,
Yes,
that's fine.
yes, Frank, you're on the Parents Engagement Series.
Okay, either way, I'm happy to help.
That's great. Thanks, Frank. You were
So
a great resource.
Uma who's new to it, and Frank, you're certainly going to be a huge help.
Sure.
As we lead that.
I see, sorry to interrupt, in the chat, James was also left out. He wants to deliver pizza to the Durham partners.
I was wondering about that because James played such a big role in that program last year. So we need to place him somewhere.
He will forever be known as the Pizza Man.
As the Pizza Man, yes. Thank you very much. I know Peter and Patrick and Tracy and Wasim and Tara are in there, and so I'm willing, very much in a similar role to Carolyn. I'll be there to help transition. So definitely add me to that list.
This is great. Lots of hands make light work. And then when you're able to, Margaret, if you could reshare your screen, please.
Getting there.
No problem. So that was the pro grants and the.
Could you, before we move on, Carolyn, do you want to explain the pro grants for some of the new members of this committee?
That'd be great.
Carolyn, is she there?
Sure. The pro grant is the parent. Yeah, can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
So the pro grant is it's ministry funding, ministry money that school community councils can apply for to provide opportunities for families, for parents, and really it has some very specific expectations around what the money can be used for, but the idea is really to engage families in the school community around the well-being and success of children. So makes, it's pretty straightforward in that way. And really the work that we do is we will offer some support to our SCC chairs and whoever else wants to come from the individual schools around writing their grant application. And then we will look at each of the applications, and our committee looks at sort of doling out the money, making sure that everybody gets the money that they need to run whatever it is they're doing, assuming that the work that they're asking to do fits within the categories that are allowed by the grant. So that's really the work that we'll do. It's just enabling school communities to do the work that they think is most valuable for their families in their individual communities. Christian, did you want to add something to that?
I just have two quick questions. I'm wondering if we know if this year, if we're allowed to be in person for these programs, and that might be, yes, okay, good. I'm getting head nods. That makes me excited. And then also just to be very transparent, I definitely want to be on the group if possible, but I will most likely be applying or helping with an application for my schools. Is that a conflict? And if it is,
you would just have to step out of the discussion for your grant application, that's all.
Thank you.
Thanks for that, because that's what we do when we perceive there could be a potential conflict. We declare that up front so that we're all aware of that, and then we make these kinds of adjustments for you.
That was great. Thank you very much for that explanation. That'll help a lot of people understand what the committee does. And we'll move on to the Social Justice and Human Rights and Human and Equity Rights Committee. If we could have somebody step forward as a chair for that committee, please, or a lead, sorry. Please feel free to speak up if you're interested.
I definitely want to be heavily involved in this one. I'm excited about it. But anybody else has any notion or wants a co-chair or if that helps with scheduling, I'm open to any or all of the above.
I can help out there with Christian if she'd like. I mean, this is definitely an area that I feel that's very important for us to be coming together and sharing our knowledge and what we can share with our community. So Christian, I would be more than willing to help you out there.
Yeah,
Same here.
Same here. Yeah.
Same here. I'll join in and co-tri-chair, whatever we say.
Quad chair, yeah.
I also see James's hand is up. Go ahead, James.
Actually, more for a question. Thanks. I appreciate that. And my hand is up because I don't know whether I've missed it or whether my brain has forgotten. What I know what PIC newsletter, parent engagement series, Durham Partners, and programs is, but I'm a little uncertain as to what the Social Justice, Human and Equity Rights Committee does. Could somebody refresh that for me, please?
So this is new to me as well. So Margaret, would you be able to step in on that one?
Oh, at our last meeting, we were talking about some of the issues of human rights and some of the things that we're seeing in schools. For example, there's lots of, I shouldn't say lots, but there's issues that are occurring in our schools where kids' human rights are being trampled on, if I can say that word. And so we're looking at how can we support our parents to support our students in this area. So it's a matter of looking at our different communities, our diverse communities, and seeing what we can do certainly to make sure that the experience of all of our children is safe, they're safe and they're welcomed in our communities, and that our parents are given strategies and skills to help them navigate some of these issues that are arising in our schools. We know that in the we want to make sure that all of our kids are welcomed and feel like they belong in our school communities. It's a new committee, so it's going to be shaped this year on what we're going to be doing with it, and then of course we can expand in the years to come.
Could the guidelines be tied into that, like the project we were just discussing with Davina?
Absolutely.
Thank you, Margaret. Yeah, Peter, would you like to go ahead? And then Nadia has a question as well.
Yeah, sure. That was my question as well. If any of the work on this subcommittee would foster into that particular document, would that be part of their mandate to get that piece off the ground? But I echo Kristen's point as well regarding that. And because I had the same question as well too, from James as to what the mandate particularly be. That's part of the reason why I did not put up my hand for chair or vice chair or quad chair, because I was just just inquiring as to what that role would be before I assumed any leadership position.
Of course, that makes sense. Nadia, your hand is up as well.
Oops, I think when we had the conversation in the last meeting, adding to what Margaret has already said, the board has been investing a lot of time and in training staff on human rights and issues around equity. And we find in schools that it would be more effective if parents and caregivers are also engaged in the learning. Teaching students and empowering them to understand their rights and also the rights of others. It's almost one-sided if parents are not engaged in the learning as well, and the unlearning. And so I think I brought this up in the last meeting that it would be very important as we work collaboratively with families to help families to join in the learning as well. And I'm really excited about this. Is a very, very important aspect of the work that we're currently doing in the board.
Perfect. I couldn't agree more. Thank you for that. And Manon, can you please put me down for that committee as well? Perfect. And then we can have the next slide. And I believe that co-chair Uma is going to take over from here.
Is Peter's hand up?
I apologize. Is Peter's hand up?
It was. Sorry. Okay.
All right. Thank you very much, Jim.
Thank you.
So we're going to move on to discuss the School Community Council Fall Training Sessions, which are coming up later this month. The committee's been working quite hard, and Margaret made sure that communication went out, even though we were in, there was work action taking place. The date has been moved around a little bit, so there will be one taking place on November 24th at 6:30 p.m. and the second will be no, sorry, it's saying session 1, 2, and 3. Sorry, yes. 2 on November 24th and the third on November 29th. And we're trying to do it so that there will be engagement, an opportunity for people from both types of schools, both elementary and secondary, to be able to engage and learn respectively, as their school councils do function a little bit differently in both areas. Would anyone from the committee like to share any more details in regards to those 2 information sessions? Margaret, you're muted.
Yeah, I know. I'm going to keep it off muted. We're just going to keep it off muted because sometimes I can't see. So, Kristen, do you want to share the session that we looked at of how to engage parents? Do you have your PowerPoint that you can share?
I'm going to see if I do share screen. Is that where?
Yeah, I'm gonna stop sharing.
Okay, let's see.
I hope you have authority that you can share.
I think so. Let's see.
Okay. Yay! Good.
All right. So I had met with Margaret and Manon, and there is Principal Andrea Walters who's going to be involved with this as well. So basically, this is I guess items that we'd like to discuss about how to attract and engage members of your community council. Totally open for adding things. If anybody wants to help and present with me on that night, more than welcome. So I'm having a good night kiss. Okay. Okay, go. Thank you. So basically, just Eli, please go to bed. 10 minutes. Ask how long he has to sleep for. 10 minutes equals 10 hours, but that's okay. He's in SK. The math is he's not doing his time yet. So how to attract and engage members to the council. We're definitely, I can't see. I can't move. Okay, there we go. So our land acknowledgement, I also noticed that maybe we don't have the human rights, so that maybe I have to add that to it. And then we're going to start, I was laughing, make your meetings dynamic, and look how dynamic these pictures are. I swear that's, you can do better than me, I promise. So, and I've made them pretty visual, and then there are notes that I will be speaking to. So I had mentioned about school tours and department updates and having community agency guests to align your meetings with the school assemblies and that type of thing. I won't go through the whole spiel, but then to know your community and how best to connect with them. So that will be a time to talk about newsletters and social media, outdoor signs, however best to communicate. And then I definitely want to talk about barriers, because we obviously want to know, at some schools it's difficult to get members out, and we really want to investigate why, and we really want to help. So if it's timing, if it's electronics, if they're doing them virtually, if it's childcare, those type of things. Again, and that's part of knowing your community as well. So we'll discuss that. And then we'll talk about different ways to promote your SCC. And again, this are like places that SCC can be present. So right now we're in the time frame of parent-teacher meetings. And I know at my school, they're doing virtual, but they're also doing some in person. So if the SCC or a member of the SCC has time, it's a great time to set up a table and introduce yourself to parents, maybe pass out little flyers. If you have a lot of the SCCs plan their dates much like us in advance. So if you have a little notice to show people that, these 5 days or these 4 sessions, that people can put them right in their phone. I know as soon as I do that, then I'm locked in. If I don't know the dates ahead of time, then I, might take on something else. So, and also holiday concerts, yay, those, are coming back for some people or some classes. So another great time to, maybe even get on the mic if you don't mind and, talk to the parents, get them involved. And then we will have the principal's perspective of engagement, which again is a different lens and a different piece. So I'll be excited to hear that piece. And then hopefully, I really hope that this is the biggest part of the night. I want so time to share your best practices. So I hope that we get some really great engagement. And even myself, like I'm helping with this, but I could definitely could use some tips myself. So I want to hear about the great things. I do follow some different groups on social media, and I see some great things that are happening. So, if they want to talk about their program from last year, they want to talk about some great fundraisers, and really, like for me, if we're talking about engagement, like what activities or what events have really drawn your community and why. So that this is, hopefully will be an interactive piece. And then, and this is where Uma and Jim, you get to be a part of this. You didn't know, but now you do. Are you familiar with the Parent Involvement Committee? And so some parents, even I'm always shocked, because if you're on the SCC and you're involved in your school, I just assume that you know about this group. And some parents don't. So I think this is the time to really promote us and maybe some upcoming events and that type of thing. And then just the end of, thanking everybody for participating. And hopefully this could be a time we give away prizes, right? Mm-hmm. So thank you. Yeah, that's what we put together.
Thank you, Kristen. That was great. RuPaul brought up a point in the chat, which I was thinking as well. Thank you, RuPaul, is that when you have the sharing amongst the attendees, is there any way that we can make that a takeaway? So even when they're sharing it, I've done this with youth committees where we'll put up like a Post-it board. So when people are sharing, it's up there, and then either it becomes a screenshot or something, and then it can be emailed out or posted somewhere, or even in our newsletter, right? That could be something that goes out in there, just so people have something tangible to take home with them.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I guess too, will the chat function be like open for this, or not until the end? Because I don't mind if people want to, and I guess too, if the chat, if we can keep a copy of the chat that was happening on the side. I'm not the most technological person, so I don't know about that. But even if there were notes, I wouldn't mind, even if at the end, if I type up some notes or things and then could be sent. Anyways, open to, I do believe, like I want to keep note of all the great things that are shared, and what's holding you back is a great one too. So I can add that into a slide also, like to share, like, because I understand that some of the shares will not be all like raw, and that's okay too, because that's what we're here for, to share the information.
John just clarified, unfortunately, we can't save the chat, so.
We might have to then designate someone just to take notes then during the session, and we can figure that out beforehand. I just checked the chat. RuPaul also asked, would it be possible to maybe include some student engagement where student reps could even give their perspective on the role and positive experience of having the STCs present in their schools. It's an idea.
Yeah, so maybe what we can do is I can send an email out to principals to see if they have a student who'd be willing to do that. And we'll have to get that out tomorrow to see if we can find a couple of students who'd be willing to come on virtually to talk about their experiences as being a member of the SDC.
And I think so. Dawn White, who's involved with another session that you're doing, she has an amazing student. So that's at the high school level. So she is the president of their student council, and she comes to our SCC meeting. So I believe Dawn has reached out to me. So I think that Dawn has probably reached out to her. So hopefully she's really great. So she might be a student voice that would be wanting to speak to the parents.
Nadia, go ahead. Excuse me.
So that's a really clean presentation, Kristen. I'm wondering if there is an opportunity somewhere in that to highlight the fact that the SCC's core purpose or goal is not necessarily to raise funds. I think there is a misconception that that's what we do. And so maybe inserting something there to perhaps highlight some of the other things that the SCC goal would involve would be great.
100%. I'll put that into a slide, because that's one of my big things is that it's so much more than, and I come from a school population that we don't do a lot of fundraising. And that's okay. There are lots of cool initiatives that you can do. So I will 100%. Thank you. I'll put that as a slide.
Awesome.
Thank you for that, Nadia. Is there any? Go ahead, Margaret.
Yeah, because my hand is flesh colored. So.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
So into Nadia's point, there's two presentations that night. The first one is on running effective SDCs, and that is brought up that it's more than SDCs, not just about fundraising, and we give them the kinds of things that they can be holding the school accountable for. And so we will address that, but it doesn't negate the fact that you can repeat that, Kristen, in your presentation as well for emphasis, for sure.
Thank you, Margaret. Is there anything else that anyone would like to contribute, or a question before we move on? Okay, then I will. Is this coming from a few parents? There's a comment in the chat. Sorry. Okay. Peter is saying maybe highlight the differences and commonalities between the elementary and senior SCCs somewhere in the presentation. And Rupal has said that, is there any way people can send in feedback or concerns through the SCC anonymously? So Rupal, I'm sorry, I don't understand. Do you mean in regards to how your SCC is being running in your own school?
I just had a few parents, about 3 or 4, kind of bringing this up to me, and it's kind of concerning, but at the same time, it's a very good question, because they're like, I want to say something, I want to suggest something, but I'm kind of scared that how it's going to be taken, or if the teacher would find it that she would not like it, and she'll kind of take it on the child. These are the insecurities of the parents, but they're like, if there is something that is anonymous, that we can put a concern out or a suggestion out without our names going behind it, if there's a way to do it through SCC, and again, SCC can look at it and then take it to the principals and things like that. If there's a way, they would be interested to do that. I'm like, I don't see an issue that they can bring it to the table, like they don't have to worry about it, anything from a chair point of view. I do understand that, but I do also understand the insecurity and the lack of confidence sometimes when the parents go through things that they don't know, or they are not really aware of what SCC is. So if there is a way, it would open up, I see it as a positive venue, that it could open up areas that we can bring a lot of things into play, which can help the engagement. But I do know at this point of time, we do not have anything like that. The only avenue is reach out to your SCC or reach out to the educators and the administrators. So it's just a concern that was tabled to me, and I just wanted to put it out there to give it a thought. We do not need an answer on it. We do not need to do anything at this point of time, but I just want to table it with the experts if there's anything we could do about this.
Sorry, Jim, 1 second, I'll get to you. In regards to what you just said, RuPaul, then maybe would it be an idea, Kristen, to maybe have the principal who's presenting in the session to discuss how the SCC is a safe space. It's supposed to be a welcoming space, and then use their experience maybe to describe how they were able to create that, cultivate that. And then that would allow for maybe that issue to be discussed, RuPaul. I don't know if anyone has any suggestions within our committee right now in regards to this.
Well, I think too, like there is, not every SCC uses it, but there is an email address, right? So I do know that it can't be completely, because obviously you'd have to send an email too. But I would say as like the SCC is supposed to be like a liaison, right, between the parents and the school and the teachers. So like, yeah, I guess to maybe I can put that it is a safe space, and that I don't know how you can make it complete, like unless you had like a box that had like suggestion box, and if you were meeting in person, like that could be done. But I know like from being on Facebook groups and things, you can do anonymous posts, but I do still think there's an admin at some part that does know who is submitting that. So I guess in that way, I don't know how you can make it completely anonymous, and maybe there is a way. But I definitely think there is generally someone who takes on the role of an SCC like chair, that you kind of do take on a role of like leadership. And I would assume anybody in that role would feel comfortable taking other parents' concerns to principals or teachers and not have to name names. So I think it is safe in that sense, like if you have something like, but I just don't know exactly how you get around being completely anonymous.
I was just going to agree with Kristen with the email that we have at my SCC. We have an email set up, so if an anonymous email comes through, we would treat it the exact same way. So it can be done, but then you'd obviously have to set up a different email and stuff. But I do agree with what Kristen's saying.
So it seems like we have a bunch of questions in regards to this. So I'm going to call Nadia, Margaret, and then Wasim. Go ahead, Nadia.
I'm just thinking, I hear the concern there, but I'm just wondering if setting up such a system would go against a positive school climate, because the aim is to ensure that relationships are fostered within the school. And so there are several members of staff, starting with the teacher who would be directly connected with the student or students. And so there's so many avenues that could be taken. It could be the CERT, it could be someone else. So I'm wondering if escalating it to the point where it goes to the SCC and moving through all those processes within the school would actually create something that doesn't add to a positive school climate. Just a thought. I have personally not had the situation so far where there are parents or caregivers who cannot find one trusted adult within the school to share. So I'm not sure if we probably should look back to directing or redirecting the parent or the caregiver to find someone within the school who they can try to have that conversation with prior.
And anonymous can equal trolls on social media, unfortunately. So when you kind of don't have that face, then you can kind of say whatever, and some could be terrible things. So I guess I definitely see your point. There's probably something could be very dark or bad about having lots of anonymous comments.
Thank you, Nadia, for that point. Margaret, go ahead.
Yeah, so the anonymous piece, as a principal, whenever I get, and as a superintendent, I get anonymous letters all the time come to me in my office or when I was a principal, and there's nothing I can do about anonymous. I don't know who it is. I don't know where the fault is. I don't know if it's a troll. I don't know if it's valid, not valid. And so when it's anonymous, and it's just hard to deal with. So what we need to do is build relationships with our principals, and our principals are very confidential people. You can go to them in confidence and bring any issue, any problem that you're having, and they will solve it. And if you feel that the principal's not going to be helpful, or they haven't helped you, then you've always got the board office. You email your superintendent like myself to get those issues addressed. So the anonymity, if I said that right, it's very hard for us as leaders to deal with that, because we really don't know what we're dealing with. I got an anonymous letter from about one school, and they said, come and find out. But what am I coming to find out? I don't know. So it's really good to build those relationships, as was said, so that you can approach your principal. But one thing that is good is that suggestion box. It's a simple idea, but put a suggestion box in your foyer and let your parents know if you've got a concern, suggestions, way for us to do something better. Please put it in the suggestion box. You don't have to have your name on that, but we will certainly look at it. That's one way. But if it's a particular issue dealing with a particular person, child, whatever, bullying, who knows the issues, there's plentiful as there are people, it's best to really approach your principal and get some of those issues redressed. Our principals are confidential people. And so if you say in confidence, they will keep your confidence and address it as best as they can to make sure that that whatever the issue is gets resolved in a manner that keeps people's confidence.
Thank you, Margaret. Rupal, go ahead.
I actually like the information, Margaret, that you shared. And again, I agree with Nadia too. It's an amazing question from the parent front and the insecurities they bring on the table. But at the same time, this explanation is amazing. So it also helps me when I get those questions. It's great to address it that way. And also, if we can, in the SCC part, if we can put that there's an email address and you can reach out to them. But at the same time, I think when we do the social, the human rights and all those pieces, the parent handbook, I think we can incorporate a little bit of that in there, that, do it one-on-one when there's a unique situation, and there could be a suggestion box or just an SCC contact person you can share your suggestions, because it's not only like the feedback and the concerns, but I have seen parents in the community that have suggestions, but they just don't want to put their names to it, like things that could be better, that could be fun, but they just don't want to be out there. They are not just outspoken like that. So it's also for not missing out on those opportunities, right? So I do love this discussion, and I think we are heading in the right way.
Thank you, Rupal. Yeah. So I think we have covered most of what we need for the upcoming sessions. Very excited. Can't wait to attend. I hope everyone is registered or will register, and we'll encourage their SCCs to register as well. Kristen, we forgot to mention the prizes for those who register. Do you want to let everyone know?
Well, I don't know if it's set in stone, but I believe we discussed that it was $10 $200 giveaways to the SCC. We thought that was a significant, like enough amount that they could do something with it. And I think Margaret shaking her head yes, so that is great.
Margaret, you have to unmute, sorry.
I was saying, we remember that money is never the issue. We have two other sessions. We won't go into a lot of details, but it is of the same quality as one we just saw. And then we have the financial session that's going to be run by 3 of our DDSB staff who work in finance, to give tips and to give them the high level ideas of what it means to keep a great financial records in your SCC. So that's the other 2 presentations. The reason why we're sort of going, because we have another presentation coming up right now.
Perfect. So I think we have pretty much everything covered for these sessions that are coming up. Thank you very much, Kristen, for sharing with us today. Margaret, is it possible to share your screen again, please? And you're muted again. We can't hear you. Margaret, we can't hear you.
Thank you.
There you go.
Sorry.
It's okay.
I know it's coming up next. I've lost my screen because I was going to present.
Oh, that's fine.
Present another of the presentations that we have coming up on that information sharing night.
Yes.
I had to.
So graduation coach for Black students presentation. Are the guests all present? Yes, I believe I see Alicia, I see Brian.
And Trisha.
And Trisha. All right. So I'll give you the floor. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. Just give me 1 second. I'm just going to share my screen. Perfect. Can everyone see the slideshow? Great. Trisha and Brian, are we good to go?
Yep.
Awesome. So good evening, everyone. We wanted to thank everyone for providing the space for us to share the impact that the Graduation Coach for Black Students program has had within the DDSB for the last year. This is a 4-year program, and we wrapped year 1 of implementation. And so we wanted to take an opportunity to share the impact with the Parent Involvement Committee about what we have done, where we have been, and where we are looking forward to. I just want to start with introductions. I just wanted to start off with Trisha and Brian.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Trisha Brown. I am the graduation coach for Black students at Pinehurst Secondary and also Donald A. Wilson.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Brian Elrington. I am the graduation coach for GL Roberts, CVI, and Sinclair Secondary School.
Yeah, and good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Alicia Russell. I am so honored to be the lead for the DDSB Graduation Coach for Black Student Program. I'm also a principal at Ajax High School. And so just looking at the purpose of the program, so it's to provide intensive culturally responsive support to Black students to improve their achievement and well-being. And this is really tied into the results of our student census data, which indicated that our students who are Black are experienced school differently. And it is tied to the outcomes outlined in our compendium action for Black students and really guided with the work with the trilogy of choosing my success, designing my future, and refining my pathway, where students receive the right information at the right time. And so looking at how it, our outline really ties in with the strategic priorities of DDSB, where we're looking at success. And that's achieving credits and graduating successfully and transitioning into their chosen post-secondary pathway. And that's really important because the students that Trisha and Brian are working with are guiding where they would like to go for the initial post-secondary pathway. And Brian and Trisha are coaching them along their way to their desired destination. And it is also grounded in equity, where we're providing direct support to not only identify and address, but to remove the systemic barriers that might be presented in their way. It's also a connection to well-being, where we're creating a sense of belonging, and that's what we're going to see today with the evidence of impact that we're going to share with you today of how students were enabling to bolster their voice and really identify different experiences for our students. And that is aligned with increased engagement as well, where Trisha and Brian, as well as the circle of adults that they work with, are acting as trusted mentors to not only build positive relationships, but using those relationships in order to coach students along to their desired destination. So looking at the evidence of impact, and this is how we measure it as well, because this is a ministry initiative. We're looking at an increased 4-year graduation rate for students participating in the program. We're looking at an increased school engagement in a sense of belonging. We're looking at a clear articulation of post-secondary pathways. And so students should be able to articulate by working with Brian and Trisha that they are able to articulate what their post-secondary pathway is and how to get there. And that's also hand in hand with increased credit attainment an identification of support that's available not only within the school and the community, and a thorough understanding of the requirements to get to their desired destination once they leave secondary school. And again, this is also part of the graduation plan where we provide funding for completed post-secondary applications to college or university for the students that are working with Brian and Tricia. And so looking at the evidence and impact, I'm going to pass it on to Tricia. We're going to really contextualize and humanize those pieces that we talked about with examples of our students.
Okay, thank you, Alicia. So it changed my child's life plan and education direction. This quote speaks to the evidence of impact, as Alicia mentioned, and it was taken from a parent of a student in the program. Apparently, as soon as mom found out about the graduation coach role, she connected to the school and requested her daughter be part of the program. And when I connected with her daughter, she was unsure of what program she wanted to do in post-secondary, and she was only really talking about going to college because she had an IEP. So after receiving her student success sheet, I realized that she had the marks and credits needed to attend university. So our conversations changed, and she started exploring university programs. And even though she was hesitant to apply, with my guidance and support, she applied to multiple universities and was accepted into all of them. So as we go through the presentation, you'll hear a bit more about her.
Thank you so much, Tricia. To continue on, the evidence of impact can also be seen in increased school engagement and sense of belonging amongst Black students. One example of this is of increased school involvement is particularly with the Black Student Union. So at Pine Ridge has an established Black Student Union that has actually grown under Tricia's guidance to 21 students. Also at GL Roberts CVI, the students in the Black Student Union there collaborated with their peers last year and senior administrative staff to oversee the creation of a Black Excellence mural prominently displayed in the pit form across the hall from the library. Now, the mural features Canadian and international Black role models, both past and present, that have made significant contributions to Black people or Black culture, humanity, and or have achieved amazing excellence in their life. And with no shortage of choices, the mural reminds the viewer that they are the embodiment of Black excellence and features the images of Andre de Grasse, Viola Desmond. There are a few others. I don't want to say too much because we also have a picture of the mural on the last slide, and I want to invite everyone on this call to test their knowledge and see how many that they can get right. Another area in terms of evidence of impact are the post-secondary campus tours that we held over the summer and into the fall. This past summer, we actually engaged both students and some parents, even I believe there's one or two parents who are actually on this call who came with us on our post-secondary campus tours. And we also had in-person info session experiences. So our tours were Centennial College, McMaster, University of Toronto. Recently, we went to Queen's. We also had visits from schools and international schools as well. So we had a visit from Notre Dame specifically for our students to speak to them. That's the Notre Dame in Indiana. And we had a visit from the University of Edinburgh in Scotland. And I really just to accurately highlight the success of this particular initiative. When we began our first tour, there were only 4 students who came to Centennial College. As of this presentation, we've had 81 students and obviously some parents. About 12% of that are parents who have come out to the tours that we have done, and just demonstrates the improved engagement within our schools. The next piece also is the increased credit attainment. This year, we are working closely with students and their families to ensure that graduation and graduating well is a reality. So this means helping students find their focus, make their post-secondary choices, understand deadlines and the importance of deadlines, and applying for scholarships in a timely manner. For students in danger of not graduating, it also means working with their guidance counselors, making sure they connect to their teachers and speak to their families in terms of creating a clear pathway to graduation. Collaboration with the guidance team and staff to ensure credit attainment is also a big part of our focus. And one example of this was last year at Sinclair. When I arrived last May, I met a young student, and his name is Kay, and he's a young man who is in serious jeopardy of not being able to graduate. And after working with Kay and his guidance counselor and his parents to establish a graduation plan, Kay made some amazing gains over May and June and realized his final 2 credits through co-op and was able to successfully graduate with his class. Pathway planning with students is actually is another aspect of this role, and I'd have to say it's actually one of the aspects of the role that I love the most. The opportunity to work with students to broaden their horizons, expand their thinking, and see more opportunities that lie ahead, I think is an absolute privilege. Whether it's encouraging the students to look at post-secondary institutions outside of Ontario, or even helping students to see more of their options and showing them that they are definitely in a position to make those options a reality has, I'd have to say, been a silent perk of this position. And one example that I can give of this is Devin, who is a grade 12 student at GL Roberts, who is on track to graduate. Now, Devin wants to be a pilot and was only considering one college. Now, together, Devin and I have charted actually a flight plan that will lead him to actually attaining his international commercial pilot's license. And it'll also see him end up with a bachelor degree in either science or commercial aviation. But most importantly, at the end of the day, it is actually his choice.
Thank you, Brian. So when I started this role, the majority of my time was spent with the grade 12s, and I supported them with goal setting, pathway planning, and support for both OUAC and OCAD applications. So this is a picture of 2 students that received such supports. And on your left, you have Tiara. She came to Canada in 2018, where she entered her grade 9 year at Pine Ridge. Throughout high school, she was a very high achieving student, but because her father had suffered a sudden life-changing illness, Tiara reached grade 12 with no immigration status and was required to apply to any Canadian post-secondary institution as an international student. She only explored college pathways because the university fees for international students was not an option for her. So after doing some research, I was able to find a one-of-its-kind program in Ontario called the Sanctuary Program, which allows international students to pay domestic program fees. And on our right, we have Tania. She is a student whose mom was quoted that the program changed her child's life plan and education direction and was accepted into multiple universities. So both girls are now attending York University. Tiara is pursuing a bachelor degree in communication and media, and Tania is pursuing a bachelor's degree in psychology. So these girls were in the same school for 4 years, but only came together because of the space and support that was provided through the graduation coach program. And they made a very strong connection and have become very good friends. So this picture was taken when I took them to York University to tour the campus so that they can get a feel of it and learn where all of their classes were so they could be more comfortable when they started in September. So this is them after getting their York student ID card. And I got a chance to speak to Tiara after her first week at York, and she said that she was comfortable on campus and really felt like she belonged there.
Thank you, Tricia. And now in planning for success, we are focused on increased parent engagement. And this includes the Black Parent Volunteer Association. And this is an initiative that sees a select group of pre-identified parents, GL Roberts, CVI, and Sinclair Secondary engage the larger Black parent community at their respective schools. To date, we have actually had parent volunteers as chaperones on 2 campus tours and as parents greeters for our Welcome Back coffee mornings at Sinclair and GL Roberts. We also completed our parent engagement survey in September 2022 2, where we launched about 14 parent survey questions to have a better understanding of what things parents thought we did well and what things parents thought were important to them. And from that, our top 3 survey results indicated that around 95% of parents felt that being provided with post-secondary information and resources was important for them. And 95% of respondents also thought that it was important for us to communicate upcoming events, updates, or available community resources. And that 91% of parents thought that it was important to have a pathway plan created together with the graduation coach, their child, and with amongst themselves as well. Increased student engagement. Also looking at Black students, that we know that Black students thrive where they feel engaged, challenged, confident, and connected to their academic environment. And part of ensuring that more Black students graduate now and in the future is best done by providing opportunities for Black students to demonstrate leadership or to develop their character. So this year, we focus on things like leadership and character development through DECA, youth peer leadership, the Conference on the Future of Black Youth, and we hope to put on a play called The Phantom Toll Booth later on in the year.
Trisha, you're muted.
Sorry, yeah. I really sorry. So for Planning for Success, we're also hoping to increase community connection through community partnership and collaboration, along with experiential learning opportunities for our students. We are collaborating at this time with Durham College and their RISE program to create opportunities specifically for Black students for the upcoming March break. Also with Centennial College and Durham College, we're looking at creating opportunities for students who are interested in trades to get some hands-on experience at those schools. We're also planning to increase a sense of belonging through the Black Student Union. And the Black Student Union was created at Pine Ridge in March 2022, and it started out with 11 students, and Brian did say we have 21, but as of today, we have 24 students who have joined. So they're working to also provide culturally relevant opportunities. And for example, they'll be going to see Trey Anthony's play, The Kink in My Hair, in December. So that's some of the good things that the students are working towards.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So as we close our time today, again, we wanted to thank you for providing the space for us to share the evidence of impact. The mural on this last page is the one that Brian spoke to that is proudly positioned and takes up space within GL Roberts. And so every time a student walks by, they see themselves reflected in that space. So we wanted to again thank you. We are so honored to continue our work throughout this year, and we look at hopefully in year 2, being able to come back and share so many more pieces of evidence and our impact as we look at expanding our reach. Thank you again for your time this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks. Have a great evening.
Thank you to you, Alicia, Brian, and Trisha. That was an excellent presentation. We all learned so much today and are so proud of what has been done in such a short period of time. It's fantastic work, and we wish it success as it proceeds this year and into the future. Would anyone like to ask any questions before we say goodbye to our presenters? Go ahead, Kristen.
Just a quick question.
Yes, go ahead.
I just want to know, how were the schools decided? How were the schools chosen as far as where these?
Yep.
That's my question.
Absolutely. And so originally when we received funding from the ministry, what the outlining was is there were some criteria for school selection. And what we did, we looked at geographically in Durham region, the pockets within the region that had the highest population of Black families. So would it be in Ajax Pickering? And so with those pieces, we decided that with the school needs as well, and looking at transforming culture, which is another piece of selection criteria, that we started off with Pine Ridge as our first school. As we were able to continue on and be able to hire our second graduation coach, which was Brian, we then looked at what are the other school needs of transforming school culture. And then at that point, GL Roberts and St. Clair were chosen. And then just last week, Donald A. Wilson was chosen as Trisha's second school. So both Trisha and Brian are centrally assigned based on the factors of what the criteria has outlined from the ministry, and then looking at overall system and school needs.
Thank you, Alicia.
Thank you. Amazing work.
No problem. Thank you.
Kristen, you had a question, and then I'll have Stephen and Frank.
It's really more of a comment. I do love to be involved in my community, but I will 100% say that I did get to be involved with this group over the summer for some of the trips to the universities. I am a mom of a grade 10 Black son who had, an inclination that he wanted post-secondary, but, doesn't want to listen to mom about how to do that. And I feel like it was I have a different son from, last year not making it to class to now feeling focused that, what his end game is. And and I met both Trisha and Brian, but Brian is in our school, and he motivates me. It's such a presence in the school, and you can tell when he's with his group that he works with how connected they are to him, and sky is the limit. I always, I'm like, oh great, Durham College, Ontario Tech, that makes sense, it's close by. And he's like, no, Notre Dame and this and that. And I was like, oh my God, I don't why. Yeah. And now I'm I drank the juice. I'm also why not? Why think small when you can think big? So totally a convert, such a great program. And I've been involved in quite a few programs, but this one really it's getting the students excited, and I see engagement, and kudos to you guys.
Thank you, Kristen. Thank you very much. I appreciate hearing you say that. Stephen, I hope I'm saying your name right. Did you have a question?
I did, and my apologies for being late.
So before I go out, just let me interrupt. Stephen is one of our new trustees as well, and assigned to this committee. And so we want to welcome Stephen. And after, when we're done, Stephen, you can introduce yourself. We don't want to stop the flow of the conversation. Sorry.
No problem. Thank you. Again, my apologies for being late. And I think the question was actually already answered somewhat, because my daughter was part of the Pine Ridge program. And I'm super proud of what they were able to accomplish. And I keep screaming Trisha's name everywhere I go. But I think I heard about expansion. So understanding that some schools have been added, and maybe this is a preemptive question, but what does expansion after that looks like? Just because it is a program that we've seen have profound impact on a lot of students that had been and have been impacted by, a lack of support in the past.
Absolutely. And those pieces, if we think about where this program was built on, it was initially there was an Increasing Equitable Pathways Post-Secondary Program, which was a ministry funded initiative that I had the opportunity to be in a couple of years ago. And there was one of me, and I connected with half of the secondary schools. So it wasn't the time on and the relationships that I could build. And so we're very mindful of Trisha and Brian and prioritizing those relationships and ensuring that as schools are added, we are doing it in a way that we can best serve the students that are within that building. And so there are other school districts that have way more than 2 graduation coaches. We are fortunate to have had one, and then Ms. Lazarus fought for that second one. And so we are mindful of what that expansion looks like, because we want to honor the students that we are working with.
Thank you, Alicia, for explaining that to us. Frank, go ahead.
Thank you, and well done, everybody. And maybe one of you could just nod. Who was on CBC Radio? Because I seem to have heard this.
I would, yeah.
Okay, so you spoke very well, first of all.
Thank you.
And second of all, I just want to pick up on something that Brian was saying, that you went from 4 students to now some 80 plus who've been involved with this. And I'm guessing it's a funding and time situation. And maybe you're doing this already, because Kristen said that her son is in grade 10. Is there any way of widening the mouth of the funnel to start with students before they're in grade 12? Like, and maybe you're doing this already, but I didn't hear that. I heard more about approaching the students or reaching them in grade 12. I'm in my dream, there would be a way of taking the student even in grade 8 or grade 9, showing them the university, putting that idea in their mind, and then having one coach, almost like the Waldorf situation, where you have the same teacher over 7 years working with that student from the beginning towards post-secondary, so that even more students would think in that direction.
Absolutely. And so at the beginning of the year, it's almost in cycles, that within the first bit of the year, it is post-secondary application season is what we've been calling it, that we are working actively with our grade 12s to ensure that they have everything that they need to complete those post-secondary applications, while bringing the grade 11s along to all of those opportunities, so that when they hear it in grade 12, they've already solidified their direction and course selection that happens in March as well. And so in March, then you're looking at grade 11s and 10s. But Tricia, Brian, and myself are also working with guidance counselors across the system, and looking at how are we ensuring that the successful approaches and culturally responsive strategies are not being just used within the 4 schools that Tricia and Brian work with, but across the system. Also looking at working with the Choosing My Success pathway counselors that are within each and every elementary school, and having the opportunity to work alongside those pathway counselors that are specifically for that grade 8 to grade 9 transition, to ensure that they have that opportunity. So when we're looking at system reach and transformation, although we have 2 graduation codes, we're looking at how can we invest our time to have that wider reach within the systems and processes that are already in place.
Thank you, Alicia. Margaret, go ahead.
Yeah, and I want to add that we're currently looking at ways internally where we can look for funds that we can widen the reach by hiring more graduation coaches, because some of the other boards too are using some of their own funding to do that. And we are partnering with some departments to see if we can have a wider reach by hiring more graduation coaches. And we've seen the impact of this program. We know that the other schools that could benefit from having somebody that's dedicated to their school, that's going to round up the kids and motivate them and give them the information that they need, so that they choose wisely for their future. And so it is something that we are looking at, and I'm already in touch with one of our departments, looking for funds that we can get a wider reach by hiring more graduation coaches for Black students.
I'd like to thank you again, Alicia, Brian, and Tricia, for your presentation today and for taking the time to answer our questions. We wish you the best of luck, and we can't wait to hear some more good news in regards to the progress next year as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good
Thank
evening.
you. Thank you so much. Have a great evening, friends. Take care.
So we'd like to move on to, I believe, the last item on our agenda. Margaret, I don't know if you're able to share. Thank you. I believe it's strategies to engage our diverse communities. And Margaret, you're muted. I was just wondering how we would like to lead the discussion on this, if there is something specific we will be working on moving forward. I do have the slides. Would you like me to share it?
Yes, could you? Because I can't find it.
Sure.
It's gone. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you.
No problem. This is the slide. Sorry, guys. I just for the sake of time, because we're approaching 8 o'clock. The discussion, Margaret, how would you like to go with this?
So we wanted to look at, we're thinking about the diverse communities that we serve, and we want just to get a sense of what we need to be looking at to ensure that we serve our communities in what best meets their needs. Oftentimes we sit on committees like this and we figure out we know what they need and we provide it, but without ever communicating with our community to ask them, what is it that you need from us? So how do we engage with just some ideas, how can we engage with our communities, our diverse and various communities that make up the Durham Region schools, the Durham District School Board? Just some ideas. We're just brainstorming at this time. We've got a year, 2 years, more years we've got to work on these issues. Any thoughts?
I had brought this up in the past. I was wondering if there's anything we can do about the language barrier that may exist within our communities, where our meetings are conducted in English, but even, for instance, whatever goes out even in print, I know it is translated, but if it's possible somehow to have something, I don't know how, but how we can engage with those who might not be comfortable with English as their English might be a second language, but they do want to be present. So how to make them feel comfortable. And I believe someone had suggested in the past that when we have our meetings live like this, to have someone doing the sign language. I believe it's ASL present, and it is being done in other virtual meetings as well. But if we could make a intention to do that moving forward.
Would you like to motion that, please, Uma?
Sure. I'd like to motion that moving forward, we have an ASL interpreter for all of our PIC meetings. Would anyone like to second that, please?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you. I have Peter and Patrick and Rupal who all seconded it. Are there any other suggestions or ideas offhand that anyone can think of? Feel free to unmute or write in the chat.
I'm wondering in general, like I'm right now working with the city of Oshawa in their diversity and equity inclusion area. And I know that there are like community councils and there are, so like, I know it's not necessarily the school, but like, is there a way of connecting with larger groups outside to connect to the communities? And I know that we were also part of a, at GL Roberts, they had a meeting, there's a new Durham, a Black hub that they're looking to place in the community. And they, I know the voice there was very much like connected to the church or connected. So like, I think I have to think out of the box of how to get information to different diverse groups.
Thank you, Kristen. Excuse me, sorry. Frank, go ahead, and then Trustee Linton.
Sure, thanks. I'm just a bit confused about procedure. If there's a motion and it's seconded, do we not have to have discussion on it and then vote, or can we table it for next month? Like I know from my side, ASL interpreting costs a fair amount of money. I don't know what the budget is for this group, and if we have the budget for that, and if that's the best use of the budget. And I say that sadly because, you know, we had an ASL interpreter for our last parent engagement evening. I would do it again in a heartbeat. I only know of one person who requested it, or not requested it, who said that they might use it.
Thank you, Frank. That's a valid point that I didn't think of. Margaret, how do we proceed from here?
So if we, it depends on the cost. I mean, we can motion that, or we can look into it and bring it back as a motion at another time. We can look into the costs of that. and see where we go from there. But certainly we can change the motion or at least amend it if you're amenable to that, Uma, and say that we can look into what it would cost to have an ASL interpreter at our meetings, so that we can be inclusive and that we can reach out to all of our community. It certainly is a very good goal, I think, but I think we can look into the cost of it and see how beneficial it is for us, because our budget is not a huge budget. And so if you're amenable to that, we can amend the motion.
Yes, I am completely flexible in regards to that. Go ahead, Trustee Linton, and then I have Rupal and Yukita.
Sorry, sorry, just a question about process. Do we need to officially restate what that motion is? Because we kind of said.
Yes, I'm going to say I've got here moving forward, we're asking that this committee look into what it would cost to have an ASL interpreter at our PIC meetings and our events. Does that carry the idea of what you'd like to include in that motion, Uma?
Yes, so I am in agreement with that. Do we need someone to second it? Can I have someone second the motion, please? So Wasim said he would second it. Thank you, Wasim. Rupal, go ahead.
I'm just, I probably might not be understanding it, but I just want more clarity on what we are expecting. The engagement piece. Can somebody please explain it one more time?
So the intention behind this item on the agenda was that how can we increase engagement with our communities at large, and so that we are reaching out to those who might not usually be attending SCC meetings, PIC meetings, or even any type of school event. So if there, and then as a group, we can brainstorm based on our experiences. So be it people who have be it a language barrier, transportation, childcare, socioeconomic, how can we make sure we are as inclusive as possible? Am I correct? Okay. Rupal, is that okay?
Yeah, that helps. That helps a lot, because I was more thinking I was not getting it 100%. But that, having said that, the biggest pieces that I've seen is the transportation or the time, and not knowing the aim of the organization or the committee, or what are we going in the meeting for? Because a lot of parents, working parents, single parents, they do want to know what I'm in for. So having that clarity that this is what we are doing, this is the aim. And one of the things at my school that was a very good suggestion is breaking down the events throughout the year in subsets. So putting it out there. So as a parent, I might not want to do everything, or might not be able to, but I might just pick the interesting area that I can help with or volunteer to. So having that clarity of communication. And I think the biggest piece would be communicating upfront, being transparent. And that is the first thing that either makes the engagement happen or breaks it. So that's what I've seen. The schools that have amazing communications, or SECs that have amazing communications, I see the parents motivated, whereas where the communication is not consistent or kind of lagging behind or missed out, there's that trust that kind of shakes up. And when the trust shakes up, the engagement, the motivation, everything shakes up, right? So that's my experience of what worked and what could be done better.
Thank you, Rupal. Yukita, go ahead. Sorry, Margaret, we can't hear you.
I'm not unmuted. Before we move on,
yes,
we want to look. The motion is to look into the cost of having an ASL interpreter for all PIC meetings and events, and it's been moved by you and seconded by Patrick. Is everybody in favor of us doing this? Show by your thumbs up, or yeah, okay.
Thank you. Yukita, and yeah, go ahead, Yukita.
Thanks, Huma. So one of the things that I thought of right away, when you said this is just, I guess, the position of privilege that we all sit in generally, sitting in these meetings that are almost 2 hours long. We're all meeting by Zoom. A lot of us have some kind of childcare arrangement. I just think along class, race, gender lines, and people that just don't, that privilege is not available to them. So some of the things I'm thinking about are like, people that are minorities that we know are relegated to lower paying positions. So they have more than one job, and one of them probably happens at night. So they can't attend a 2-hour PIC meeting. But that doesn't mean they're any less interested in what's happening in their child's school community. So some of the things I think about, and this is probably already being done. This first one is recording the meetings and posting them, if we aren't already, but we might be, so scratch that if we are. Another thing that I think about is maybe just highlights, brief, plain language highlights that a parent that's on their lunch break or a single mom that's got 2 minutes in her day can pick up her phone and be like, what's happening in the community? I only need to read 20 words, and easier to translate. So we're looking at that translation, that accessibility piece, much easier to translate 10-word highlights, for each line, of course, than it would be for these lengthy newsletters. Just to make the progress more accessible to people that want to be engaged but don't have as much time to be engaged just because of where they're sitting at certain stages of their life. So short, concise updates, and again posting.
Thank you, Gita. And I think you just got me to think about when you said communication. So I quickly just checked DDSB schools, the Instagram account, and I noticed even our flyer for the event is not there. So is there, again, how can we optimize how we communicate? And like you were saying, when someone needs to check quickly, it's usually through Instagram, Twitter, it's those quick posts, right? So Margaret, maybe if we can somehow figure out how things go out. And like, I know we do it through email, but sometimes those emails fall into spam or at the bottom of the to read. So maybe we can do what Gita was saying, is optimize communication in different ways.
One of the big movements as well in a variety of sectors is plain language writing.
Mm-hmm.
Away from needing to validate ourselves through really, through 10-cent words when a 1-cent word would do just fine, which I think makes language more consumable for people that are in a rush. So something else to think about, like as we think about what's our Instagram post to say, and how quickly can we communicate what we want to say to make it consumable.
Thank you, Yugita. And I'm just going through the chat, and they're saying that maybe parents are still using Facebook, so how to utilize that. If we have access to Instagram, Twitter, if the PIC has that, even the SCCs, how are they utilizing that? Wasim also asked if it's possible to have any of our PIC meetings in person. I know we're doing them virtual, but can we go back to in person as well, just to allow for people to connect? I believe that's it. If I've left anything, please do let me know.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything else anyone would like to share? Margaret, so RuPaul, go ahead.
Sorry, just a quick one. So I do understand there are different platforms that the information has been shared, and that's great. But I think either limiting the platforms or kind of having it consistent with all the platforms is a must, because sometimes I see info on Twitter which is missing on Insta. Sometimes I see info that has been sent by one teacher and the other teacher doesn't send it. So it's all over the place. Whereas Facebook, I've seen a lot of parents who know each other are on Facebook, but if I'm not knowing the parents, then that's the privacy thing that I don't want to be on Facebook, because it opens up a lot of personal info. So either I think we need to narrow it down to 1 or 2 platforms, or we need to have the info consistent through the platforms. So it's much more accessible. At the same time, it's the same info that everybody's getting. It's not like, oh, I'm in the Facebook group, so I know this, but I'm on Insta, but I didn't see anything. So that kind of creates a disconnect. And I think currently what I'm seeing is, based on the social medias that I've been following, Insta is the go-to compared to Facebook and Twitter. So if that is an avenue that we can pursue, because I follow a lot of libraries and the school info and everything like that, and I see Insta like going like so much more efficiently with everything. And again, that same info can be used by the school administrators to put it on Remind. So nobody has to do that extra work to kind of put the information together. It's done by DDSB. It's already on there. You lift and shift, put it on your Remind, or put it on your school website, or put it on your school newsletter. So it's so much more consistency in everything. So that's just a suggestion of based on what I follow on social media and what I see, but that's only my personal info. I just want to throw it out in there for a thought.
Thank you, Rupal. Wasim, your hand is up.
Yeah, so I'm also chair at Pine Ridge and Valley Farm, and all of the parents that are in those meetings have only Facebook. I just wanted to make that comment.
Thank you.
So we can certainly look at streamlining our communication, using some of the social platforms, the social media platforms that we've talked about for sure. And then somebody raised having a PIC meeting in person. We can put that on the agenda for next week, for next month, when we have our next meeting to talk about that, because that certainly is, some people want a hybrid model where we can do the online plus the in-person as well. So we can look at that. And there is a mandate that's come out from the ministry about when we have public facing meetings such as this one to offer that hybrid model, so we can put that on the agenda for our next meeting and have a just brief discussion about it and make a decision about how we'd like to move forward as well.
Is it possible that we have a new committee now, the Social Equity Human Rights Committee, that maybe that they can also examine this issue in a smaller group? So we've had a discussion now as a large group. Maybe they can take these points and maybe examine them further, just so this doesn't get pushed to the back, because there are so many different things that we are going to want to focus on this year. And it'll help provide some focus and maybe even some action items for the year. Rupal, do you have anything else you wanted to add? I see your hand is up.
This is totally off the topic, but I don't know where to go. I'm just going to put it out there. If anybody can guide me as to this is a place for it, or this committee is a place for it, or somewhere else. One of the concerns that I'm seeing, or other parents are also seeing, is students when they work offline, because we come from a virtual to in-person background. They have access to all these social media avenues and stuff like that, and they're using Google Meets, codes from previous classes. They're using Talkie. They're using Discord. Is that something that falls in under any committees or any areas in DDSB that they can suggest to the parents that these are the safer platforms compared to trying out everything and not even knowing? Because as parents, like, believe me, it's absolutely true. We are 10 steps behind our youngest children. They are way faster in trying out things and jumping it in there. So don't know where to go with this, but it kind of is a concern, growing concern, that the social media brings to the younger students. So if there's a place to put this somewhere and kind of just educate the parents through SCC or anything that these are the platforms, and we cannot say anything is safer, but at least say that these are the ones that the students are using, because a lot of parents don't even know the platforms existing. I just knew about Talkie and I'm like, okay, what is that? So I'm so way behind. I feel so outdated at times that we don't know, and we are parents of these younger generations. So I think having speakers bringing those social media platforms education to us parents would be something we can look at it too.
So that's something for, without butting in, something for the speaker series to think about, social media for parents, some sort of event around that, so parents can get the knowledge and information that Rupal's talking about there.
So Margaret, could we note that down, that for Parent Engagement Series Committee, that maybe they could consider some type of topic on this? Okay, so I saw another hand. Yukita, do you have anything to say?
It was exactly, I'm on that committee, and it was exactly what.
Perfect. Great, we might have a topic to work with then going forward. Sorry, I'm just going to check the chat. I see something. Okay, perfect. If there's anything else, then I think we'll probably close off this topic for today. we have gone over, so I do want to give everyone a break. Some have not eaten, some might want to get the kids to bed. Margaret, is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I'm just gonna check the agenda quickly, sorry. I believe that was our last agenda item. Our next official meeting that will be live is scheduled for February 15th, 2023, but we do, but we have our December one. So is that one gonna be live as well, or is that just going to be?
That's gonna be live.
Okay, so December 14th will be our next meeting, which will be, so please try the leads for your committees to connect with your committee members and have a meeting beforehand so that we are then able to share what we will all be doing moving forward in our respective groups. Is that good? All right, I'd like to thank you all for coming out tonight and sharing your time with all of us and all of your insight. And I look forward to seeing you soon next month. Thank you.
Everybody. Have a great night.
Do we get Stephen to introduce himself?
Oh yeah, that's right.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Go ahead,
Mr.
Trustee Linton.
Linton.
I apologize.
Hi, good evening. I'm sorry I had a conflict, which is why I'm late, but my name is Stephen Linton. I am the school board trustee for Pickering. Excited to be here. Primarily, my background is community engagement and community development. With over 14 years, currently working with the City of Toronto in their Toronto Employment and Social Services, serving the Malvern community in Scarborough, but being part of various groups in Durham, and even today gave me great pride because Miss Lazarus was my daughter's principal. Elementary school principal at Altona, and of course Trisha Brown was actually one of the graduation coaches, and I've got pictures of them at their graduation ceremony, and my daughter's out in at Western University. So yesterday at the swearing in ceremony, I was walking around my daughter on my phone showing her everything, so that was exciting. So very excited to be here. Really already liking the energy and hoping I can contribute in any shape, way, and form possible. So thank you all for having me.
No, thank you. And again, we want to thank you yourself and both Trustee Arsenault for taking the time to come out and being a part of this with us. We always appreciate the support that we get from our community members and your insight. So if that's it, I'd like to thank you all again for coming out today, and we hope to see you in a few weeks. Take care, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you.